Can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's me, Niall, and I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by Australia's Matt Floyd ahead of his big fight against return and legend Shane Mosley on July 25th at the Indigo O2 in London, England. Yeah, part of a Hall of Fame fight night card also includes another former champion, Victor Ortiz. But yeah, Shane Mosley making his return to the ring after nearly 9 years, I believe. The former multi-weight king, and yeah, Matt Floyd. Thanks for coming on. First of all, I hope you're well. Yeah, before we get into kind of the opponents for July 25th, how are preparations going? How have things been with you?
Yeah, preparation's been good. I was getting ready for another fight on the same card. I was a co-main event. So right now, I've just got to cut a bit more weight now. I've got to get a bit lighter. So I was fighting at light heavyweight. Now I'm fighting at super middle.
Good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, and the opponent, as I say, needs no introduction. Shane Mosley, legendary multi-weight champion, making his return to the ring. What's it like, when you found out you were fighting Shane Mosley? Now, what's that feeling of fighting such a big name, like the biggest name of your career, the biggest name a lot of people have fight in their careers, to be honest with you. What are your thoughts on Shane Mosley and getting to share the ring with the great man himself?
At first, at first it was like surreal, and then I was like, oh no, it's destiny because it was the first like celebrity, first real boxer I ever really met, like about 20 years ago, when I was a kid, and I had like I don't know this strange feeling when I met him then, and I don't know, I guess it feels like it now. It feels like it was always meant to happen.
Yeah, it's fascinating. With your kind of, your background has been well kind of documented of your time in prison and stuff like that. Are you the type of character that can kind of take stock, kind of sit back and say, look how far I've come. I'm about to share a ring with Shane Mosley. Like could you have envisaged that many years ago when you were in prison and just appreciate the journey that boxing was kind of taking you on?
When I was in prison, I knew, like I told everyone, and I knew that I was going to do like stuff when I got out boxing, and I knew that I was going to, always I wanted to fight the best in the world. Um, and this year has been, it feels like the last few years it's been like everything's just been hurdle after hurdle, and and setback after setback, and then this year everything just feels like it's been going like right. So it's been like one of them years, and I've just known, yeah, this whole year's been pretty good so far. So I felt like, no, yeah, if this happened last year or any other time before this year, I'd probably be like good shit doesn't really happen to me. But this year's been pretty like, yeah, surreal so far. So
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, it should be a really interesting encounter. To be interesting to see how Shane Mosley looks, of course. I know you're likely preparing for the best version of Shane Mosley, but being out of the ring for so long, following kind of injuries that put him out of the ring the last time, it'll be interesting to see what he looks like. But let's look a little bit into the future now. I know you've business to take care of on July 25th, but if we were kind of looking ahead, it'd be foolish of me to not ask you about a certain name, first of all, of Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is someone you've been very vocal about calling out. You seem to have kind of said that the fight was basically signed. I believe March 29th, the Misfits card was where it was supposed to take place. And as we know, that card didn't materialize. What was the Tommy Fury fight all but kind of signed and done, and what is the reason that it hasn't kind of come to fruition just yet, if you're able to kind of share that?
the Tommy Fury fight was just all talk between like, heaps of other people. The fact that he wasn't normally, like, if a fight wasn't happening, like, there was a lot of media around it and he was getting hammered. So the fact that he wasn't saying he wasn't fighting made me think that, the fight was going to happen because, like he was getting hammered everywhere, and you would have thought the amount he was getting hammered, he would have just turned around and gone, "Look, I'm not fighting," or he just didn't say anything. And I kept getting told positive stuff. So now, like I've spoken to like Shane, seeing myself. Obviously, Shane's announced it. Now, because of the whole Tommy thing not happening, now I'm like, until I see them post it and advertise it themselves, and I hear it from the horse's mouth. Now I don't think, which I have with this. So, and obviously, like it's on the, it's happening. It's on the card and everything. But yeah, there was a lot of talk. It was a lot. That was the start of my what would you call it? Influence celebrity boxing journey. So that was like I started working things out. I'm a pretty quick learner, and now I understand that whole game. Like I've been, like I was supposed to fight Darren Till, then we became friends again, and we're still very good mates. So it's been like, this influence celebrity boxing journey is very crazy. It's very different to just, your other, your set fights and things like that. And I learned that from the Tommy Fury. So now it's like, I mean, I've had other big fights that were supposed to happen since then. I was close to fighting the guy that's fighting, Jake Paul on the weekend. So it's like, it's I learned from the Tommy Fury situation that there's a lot more talk around things, and yeah, I probably know not to jump the gun until it's signed, like this fight, and both people, like he's advertised it, like, until I saw him actually advertise it, then I was like, oh yeah, I can start talking about it now.
Yeah, it is a fascinating kind of. He's had a very divisive career. Has Tommy Fury? He's made his return recently on an underwhelming showing in Bulgaria. Before we move on, because there's a question there that I want to ask you in regards to what you've just said. So that Tommy Fury fight, is that still a fight you'd look to chase, or is that kind of done now, as you said, until it comes from the horse's mouth?
Oh, I don't really care, man. Yeah, I don't really care. It doesn't. Like for me, I mean, I'm fighting Shane Mosley now, who, in the boxing world, and anyone that knows boxing, he's got a far, better reputation. He's achieved so much more. He's a bigger name to me and to a lot of other people. Not that I care what other people think anyway. Back then when we were talking about Tommy Fury, if you gave me the choice between Tommy Fury or Shane Mosley, it's no brainer. It's Shane Mosley Shane Mosley all day, every day. I've got a lot more respect, and I'm fighting, a hero, a champion, so a Hall of Famer, so much more, So Tommy Fury, if the fight, I really don't care, man. It was actually mentioned to me again, more serious than probably it was last time, just a few days ago. From obviously I know a lot more people now, after being in the UK a few times. I've met everyone now. I know, so I know who's more serious than others than that. So, but I'm just not gonna jump the gun on it. I don't really care. We could fight this year. We might not. It doesn't bother me, man. I'm on the right track. I'm fighting Shane Mosley after this fight. They can only get bigger fights from there. So
Yeah,
whether it's Tommy Fury or someone else, doesn't bother me.
yeah, no, it's hard to argue with that. And as you said, Shane Mosley, if you were to get past Shane Mosley, it'll be a tough task, obviously, but that blows away anything Tommy Fury has done so far in his boxing kind of in his boxing career so far, just with that win. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting few months. Just kind of a question I want to ask, as I say, from a comment you made there a couple of minutes ago. We have a fight in the weekend, probably the biggest one in this. Well, a former influencer and Jake Paul fighting a former world champion, Julio Cesar Chavez. You kind of hinted there that that fight was a possibility. Yourself and Jake Paul. How possible was that? How
Not
close
me,
was that to
not me
becoming a
and Jake,
reality?
not me, not me and Jake Paul, me and Chavez Jr.
Okay, right. Was that
Yeah,
close? How
yeah.
how close was that to kind of coming to fruition?
Like I said, like Chavez Jr. was who I was talking to after the Fury thing. I speak to Chavez Jr. Like personally. I feel like we've sort of become like friends over social media. We talk a fair bit. I was almost gonna, if I hadn't had this fight, this Shane Mosley card fight. I probably was going to go over there and do some rounds with him and help him. I wanted to help him get ready for that fight. We talk a fair, we talk. He's actually, yeah. So we started talking several months ago. What happened? Someone made a fan poster of me and him fighting, and the winner fought Jake Paul or something. But like, how sometimes then fan posters they're for no reason, but sometimes they get like a million views. This is just one that hit and it did well. So he followed me. So I thought, fuck, is this real? This is once again at the start of the celebrity boxing journey after the Tommy Fury. So I was still like, when I hear something, I think, fuck, it's going to happen, but it doesn't. So, but we just started talking. We were talking to, I can't remember the name. There was a promoter of like a guy who ran a Jake Paul fight in he's on my Instagram. I can't remember now, but there was just talks of, would you fight this guy? And we started talking after that. It didn't happen. But yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's good to know. I'll ask you for a prediction, I suppose, since we're at the week of the fight. I'll ask you, who do you think wins that? Your close associate, Julio Cesar Chavez, can he defeat Jake Paul, or do you think Jake Paul might get it done?
I think if Chavez is Junior is at his best, his fighting best from before, and, and his training, I think he is, he could do it, but that's only because he was, he was one of the best in the world. If he's at that form, and so that's not taking anything away from Jake. I think Jake is far better than what all the haters say. I think he's. I always say this in this Jake Paul argument when people talk about influence boxing. I always say, um, like you look at Mike Tyson. He started boxing at 14, and when he was 20, he was the greatest of all time. I know it's hard to use Tyson because he's obviously an absolute, like he was an absolute animal. So like, he was different to most humans. So it's hard to use him as that example. But, there's other cases, So you got Jake Paul who's been boxing for probably like 6 years now, but you got someone who's got, back then he had all the money, and all he's done is pumped all this money into the best team, the best, everything. And he's obviously, you can see he's got natural ability, natural athletic ability, athleticism and things like that. He has to. And then, you've got the best of training and trainers and this and that. So you're going to get, after this amount of time, a great fighter, which he is. He is a great fighter. He's obviously put the work in. You can see it. And I think he's far better, I think he's I don't know, I don't like to say, he's definitely, he's a good boxer, good
Yeah,
fighter.
yeah. I think there's one thing you can't fault about Jake Paul, as you say, no matter what the haters say, is his dedication. He is dedicated to it over the last since however long it's been since he picked it up, and you can question his Chavez the opposite side of that, where he has the talent, he just lacks the dedication. But it's going to be interesting to see, as you say, if Chavez is on his best, he could give him a hell of a fight, and he probably should beat him if he's at his best. But it's going to be an interesting one. One thing before we just wrap up, I won't keep you too much longer. I was I wanted to ask you about, you've spoken in the
Right.
past about wanting to get into the bare knuckle fighting championship. I think there was talk of maybe a headline event in Perth, I believe it was. Is that still something you have targeted to compete in? Of course, the bare knuckle fighting championship headed by fellow Irishman of mine, Conor McGregor. Is that still kind of an itch that you'd like to scratch in your career?
I met Connor a few weeks ago. Um, yeah, I seen him a few weeks ago. His boxing trainer did a lot of work with me. He's helping me. He's going to help me for the Shane Mosley fight. I'll be with him in a few days, or next week. From Crumlin,
Oh yeah,
Crumlin Boxing
Phil
Gym.
Sutcliffe.
Phil Sutcliffe. Yeah, he's a great man. He's helped me a lot. I did a lot of training with him, and I'm going to be training with him again in a few days, pretty much. So, but yeah. Anyway, I spoke to Connor about that too, about this fight, and I was fighting Aaron Chalmers. That was all good to go, but what happened was Perth scrapped the fight from happening, so Western Australia wouldn't let it happen, and Western Australia won't let me fight anyway. That's my hometown, so I can fight anywhere in Australia except for Perth, which is my hometown. We've got different states and different rules, and they won't let me fight because that's where I kidnapped all the pedos. So they 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 because I did they don't. It's not because of that they don't let me fight. It's because it was all over the news. It was because and other people followed. So it wasn't on the news and this and that. They might have, but it was because it was more like people followed what I did and they didn't want me to. I don't know, man. It's all political bullshit, bro. It doesn't make any sense to me. But they weren't going to let me fight anyway, and the show got scrapped. So it was a great offer, man, Aaron Chalmers. But now I'm fighting Shane Mosley, so it looks like boxing's going the right direction. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future, man. But I mean, I have a good fight with Shane Mosley. I dare say it has to be boxing from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big task at hand, but yeah, as you say, you never know what the future might hold, and it will be interesting to see the partnership with Phil Sutcliffe, how that works out. That's a very interesting one. But yeah, just before we wrap up, it is Shane Mosley, July 25th. We leave off with a prediction from yourself. Are you looking for a KO here, or is it win at all costs?
In all my other fights, it's always, an early night for the other guy, but I respect Shane too much to talk about him that way. But I'm not going to treat it like any other. I'm not going to treat it any different. Sorry, to any other fight. So yeah, I know like all my fights, I'm very confident I'm going to win. I'm confident I'm going to win this fight. I'm not going to be talking about an early night for Shane Mosley, but being who Shane Mosley is.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Cannot wait for this fight. Best of luck with that. July 25th, the Indigo O2 in London. Matt Floyd takes on the returning legend of Sugar Shane Mosley, headlining a really big night of fights at the Indigo. Of course, as I say, for another former world champion, Victor Ortiz, on the card. So yeah, cannot wait for this one. So yeah, pleasure speaking to Matt. So let us know what you think in the comments. Are you looking forward to this one? Give us your predictions and what you think what you'd like to see the future hold from Matt. And yeah, as always, don't forget, drop a like on the video. We'd really appreciate it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at ESBR Boxing and follow us on all social media. Matt, it was an absolute pleasure and take care.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you, brother.